Just like how Uber disrupted the taxi industry, we're disrupting the capital markets industry by introducing blockchain as the settlement layer where all securities will live and breathe.
That's why I know the blockchain's not going anywhere. I think power companies will go on it, title companies, DMV. So the blockchain's not going anywhere.
The biggest sources of fraud are always the guys on the inside. The blockchain actually solves all that.
What's the upside?
As far as making an investment, actually,
I've always wanted to talk to people about blockchain stuff only because, it's not going anywhere. Would you agree?
That's right. It's there forever.
And you are the CEO of Polymath, which is basically a company that's simplifying the creation, issuance, and management of security tokens on the blockchain.
Yep.
So, and you're going public.
We are.
Right
That's
now.
Very exciting and highly stressful.
Now, can Americans, because I know is that a Canadian company?
Canadian company, but can be invested by Americans.
So it's Canadian based. It's really international.
Canadian based. We will be going public in Toronto on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Venture Exchange. But we will, and we've got a line of sight to be listed on NASDAQ a year later.
Well, if people listening to the show want to invest, would they just invest through the Canadian Stock Exchange? How do you invest today?
Through the Canadian Stock Exchange. Right now we're doing we'll call it a placement. It's a subscription receipt placement, raising $20 million. And this is to go public. So right now we picked a shell that we're going to reverse the company into, raising $20 million in order to create the float that we need to be public. And they can invest by contacting the company or contacting our brokers, Canaccord, Roth. All of our brokers are cross-border, and they do cross-border. So Canaccord, Roth, Research Capital, and then Sightline Partners.
All right, so this is one of those opportunities where, hey, if you pay attention, this might be the whole investment that could just kick off for you. So Bomb Squad, pay attention. I'm going to ask him some questions about tokenization, etc. And I see these type of opportunities like I missed out on blockchain when it was $7 because I was not listening and I didn't believe and understand. And I think this might be another one because tokenization, explain it.
Tokenization and security tokenization, you're securitizing an illiquid asset and making it liquid, right? And so the narrative here in the vertical space that we play in is the tokenization of real world assets. We say that we are tokenizing the global financial system because ultimately we believe that the global financial system will A, adopt blockchain, and B, adopt security tokens. That's already happening. So the crypto task force that is charged, and it's led by David Sachs on the Hill, he believes in tokenization. He's been on YouTube actually espousing that. He was here at the Bitcoin crypto conference talking about it. And so this is a transformative industry, and it's I wouldn't say the last industry to be disrupted, but it is a industry to be disrupted. Just like how Uber disrupted the taxi industry, how Napster disrupted actually the media industry. We and Polymath, and we're disrupting the capital markets industry by introducing blockchain as the settlement layer where all securities will live and breathe. And we're here to optimize it. We're here to transform it. And we're here ultimately to help entrepreneurs like you raise capital for your business so you can expand and grow.
So again, in our earlier discussion, you realize I admit that I'm not a crypto genius by any stretch. I'd say even the opposite. However, what it sounds like to me is tokenization is literally creating a digital share. And because it's on the blockchain, which is, excuse the language, unfuckable ledger. Like you can't screw that ledger.
Correct.
So really all you're doing, like it's nothing, but all you're doing is you're tokenizing anything that is usually not liquid, like a building or even a brand or anything really.
Correct.
And the blockchain is the ledger. So you're just fractionalizing an asset, putting it on the blockchain so the records can never be screwed, and you can fractionalize it down to the nth degree.
Correct.
Who decides the value of things? Let's say I own this building and the market value is 20 million, and I want to fractionalize it and allow everybody to own it with me.
Right.
Would it be 20 million fractions, or could it be 40 million fractions?
You can decide on the divisible nature, right?
Okay,
if it's $1 a share, if it's 50 cents a share, you decide.
Yeah, but
what is the entry point?
Who's deciding the value? Like, in other words,
value of the building itself. Well, you would need an underwriter to be able to determine what that value is.
But I can't assign that to myself.
No, you can't. You need a third party to ensure that you're setting the right enterprise value. It's like a classic car. Who sells that classic car that vet's worth $100,000, right? Somebody's got to tell you that, right? You could want more and ask for more if somebody's willing to pay for that.
Well, when it comes to investors, a lot of them are not that bright.
I would say there are the intelligent investors that look at balance sheets and cash flow and projections.
That would be a fraction,
right?
The majority,
emotional investors.
The majority are going to say polymath. That sounds cool. I want some,
right?
And hope something happens. They're not looking at your balance sheet, your management team, your profit and loss. They're not looking at anything. Most of them,
right?
That I see. And that's the type of investor I am. I'm just like, I like the name. Sounds like it's going to go big.
But when you bought Bitcoin, actually, did you look at the balance sheet? There was one. There wasn't one, right?
And look how many people bought it.
That's right. Exactly. And I'm not saying that polymath is very similar to Bitcoin. It's not, right? What's very similar to Bitcoin is we have a blockchain. We have our own layer one. What's exciting, Brad, is that we will be the first layer one to go public.
What is a layer one?
A layer one is like the Bitcoin blockchain. It's the settlement layer. It's the database. Let's just call it the database, or the system
ledger
of record, the ledger, right? The immutable ledger, or the uneffable.
Immutable. Does that mean the same thing? I'll start using immutable.
Immutable. Yeah. Not the effable actually ledger.
Yeah. An immutable, unchangeable, always accurate, never scammable.
Right.
And that's why I know the blockchain is not going anywhere.
Correct.
Because I think power companies will go on it, title companies, DMV. Everyone will be using the blockchain if they're not already. And a lot of people are that you're not even aware of.
Right.
So the blockchain's not going anywhere.
When the world is powered by blockchain, and you hit a couple of things here, the DMV, the land registry. The land registry should be running on blockchain if it's not already. That would make fractionalization and tokenization of real estate easy, right? Right now, there's hurdles that you've got to step through.
Yep.
If you want to tokenize this building, let's say your house you're living in, you need to move that into like an SPV, special purpose vehicle, and then you can tokenize that asset. Had it that the land registry was living already on the blockchain, you can bypass the SPV altogether.
Yeah, you just press a button and it's now 20 million shares.
Right. And can you imagine if things were running on blockchain, like when you are selling real estate, there's this thing called land title insurance that everybody has to get to ensure that, and it's during that closing period, right? You don't need land title insurance, right? So there's an entire industry that doesn't want blockchain because revenue streams disappear, right? And it's a very similar in capital markets as well. If you make something more efficient, well, what happened to all the fat that's actually in the system that exists today? Well, it gets repurposed, but you think about that capital that's getting put to no use in order to just make the system operate. Well, it gets repurposed, but other people, like people find different jobs. There's actually different layers of value that you can add to it as well. But ultimately, like we're here to optimize. Like as a technologist and a technologist, throughout my career, I always think about how do we make things better? How do you actually draw elements from other aspects of other technology elements and make it that much better? We did say at one point in time, and if I look at what we do, Shopify was born out of Canada, right? We're very similar to a Shopify where we provide the tools, the chain, the issuance platform, everything has a white labeled solution, right? People will know about Polymath as a brand and what we do, but I'm not a direct to consumer play. I'm a B2B to a C, right? You would be my customer, but ultimately your investors that are using the platform. I'm just making the magic happen.
Yeah, and it makes it more safe for if I were to raise money, because
Correct.
those investors, the records that, like, use land, for example. Someone was showing me where there is all kinds of property that, whether it was a fire, whether it was mismanagement, or whether it's straight up fraud, those deeds and titles and whatnot were changed and disappeared, and they don't exist. So technically, if you knew where this property was, you could go lay claim to it, and whoever actually owned it would be screwed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because, A, fraud, mm-hmm. B, paper.
Correct.
There's no blockchain records. There's no immutable ledgers.
Right.
And people don't realize, right now, your house could be swiped right out from underneath you.
That's
the way it currently exists.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, because records can be changed. If you know the right people and you're a scam artist, you can literally go change the records and kick someone off their own property.
Yeah.
And that's just land.
Yeah. The biggest sources of fraud are typically, what I've seen from putting in payment systems and banking platforms as well. The biggest sources of fraud are always the guys on the inside, right? The guys that are operating the systems, right? And they're tapping into a database and changing records and moving things around. And that's a long tail of just drawing funds out of a system actually over time. You don't know what's happening, and things aren't reconciling. And so you look at it, it's just a rounding error. But blockchain actually solves all that, right? It's immutable and it's there, and records can't be changed. It cannot be assigned, right? You can put alerts and watchers on, let's say your title on your house. You can put a watcher on the land registry. And if anybody changes it, well, they're not going to change it because, again, it's immutable. But if something does happen, right, or anybody just looks at your land title registry, you'd be alerted, and someone's sniffing around, somebody's doing something, right? But it'll never be changed.
I wonder who you would call. Do I call Polymath?
Well, you wouldn't call Polymath for land registry, but for security, you definitely would, right? At least as the tech provider.
Yeah, but what if, the country of Canada starts to use Polymath to tokenize governmental agencies and assets?
Right.
Because why wouldn't governments do it too?
Well, governments should be using systems like ours. Like, if you think about the crown jewels of many governments, like your parks, like your toll roads, as an example, those are sold at times to private equity firms. Well, wouldn't it be great if governments can tokenize the assets that they have, that they use tax dollars to build this infrastructure? And now you're a fractional owner of a toll road. And now every time that you're proud to take that toll road, because you're going to get yield every month actually from that, right? It's a cash flow business. So instead of selling these assets to, private equity firms, sell it to the people that actually helped to build it, the taxpayers of the country, right? Now you're proud to say, hey, I happen to own that bridge or that toll road, and it's producing yield for me, not just for, a group of individuals, right? So I think it needs to be spread around. I think what blockchain is doing, and actually what Polymath is doing, is that it allows you to be creative, and it makes you rethink what you've done in the past. And you don't have to continue to operate as you did in the past as limited partnerships and funds and selling off assets, right? Like, we allow, I'll say, entrepreneurs to scale their business. We have interesting customers that have utilized our platforms from a lot of real estate plays. Real estate is the illiquid asset that is now, we'll call it, liquefying. So we have a lot of real estate plays on Polymath proper platform, but also partner platforms as well that we support that are connecting directly to our layer 1 chain. We have distilleries like that. They're currently producing vodka and gin. They want to get into aging whiskey. Well, in order to do that, guess what you need? Capital. Well, how do you get that capital? Well, let's tokenize whiskey barrels, because that's a thing, right? That's an investment vehicle now. And to age whiskey, that's just a waiting game. So, the distillery can go to the bank and get a operating line of credit, and most banks would be willing to, to provide a loan to a distillery at 18%. Or, hey, let's create an investment vehicle where maybe I'm tokenizing and fractionalizing these whiskey barrels, and I'm providing a return of 10% a year for 3 to 5 to 7 years, depending on how long you want to age the whiskey. You're paid actually that yield every year, but at the end of the maturation or the aging process, it's bottled. You're given your principal back. You're given your interest back over a year, and you're given maybe some product as well, like 10 bottles of whiskey. And so these are all use cases that we've supported.
Yeah. So if I'm listening to this as an investor, a potential investor, my thoughts would be, well, what's the upside here? Let's say I throw you $100,000 and everything goes to plan. 5 years from now, is that $102,000? Or man, if everything goes to plan, that $100,000 investment today would be worth $1 million.
Well, I can't predict the future. Like I can't predict the price of Bitcoin.
Well, we can make assumptions.
We can make assumptions.
So let's assume everything goes to Polymath's plan. You have a plan, I hope.
We do have a plan.
So if everything goes to plan, nothing more, nothing less, it just goes to plan. And I give you $100,000 today, because the opportunity's today. Once it's happening, it's not the same. I want to try to give people the inside scoop. And by the way, folks, any investments y'all make, don't call me, whether they're good or bad. Don't call me. I did not do the math, nor am I qualified, but I do want to because if I'm listening to this, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, well, why Polymath? Why can't everybody do this? Why are you so special? Number one. Number two, okay, well, what if I threw you a little bit of money? Is it like a massive payout, or is it just like, if everything goes to plan, you'll make 8% year over year, which ain't bad, but not as exciting. What type of upside is there?
We're building a business to scale. We're building a global business, and this is not just a regional play. This is not a Canadian play as well. This is global. Businesses that I've built in the past have always been global. I think globally. I don't think locally, right? And so my customers are all around the world. All the trials or proof of concepts and customers, and I showed you that map. That was a global map, right? And those are all active projects that we're working on around the world. I was recently in Pakistan and addressed the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Minister of Finance as well to teach them about tokenization and what is the opportunity here, right? And in most countries, and again, they're looking for, how do I attract foreign currency into my country? What have I got as an asset, right? And in Pakistan, what do they have is they've got the world's largest gold mine, right? Well, let's create a revenue stream of that gold mine. And let's actually allow people to invest in it because, certain countries, and Pakistan being one of them, they need operating capital now in order to start, improving and upgrading their core infrastructure, right? Whereas that mine starts, I think the mining operation starts in 3 years. So the yield is only starting to produce in 3 years. And that's a 38-year project of extracting gold from that mine. So again, it's about thinking differently. Going back to your question, as far as, well, what does this $100,000 look like? Well, it's anybody's guess, right? And again, I'm not the Gandalf of investing, right? I can't predict. I can't predict the value of Bitcoin as well. The only thing I can say is that I'm building a business where there will be value. We look at other businesses that we will acquire after we're public. Everything actually has to monetize that layer one chain that we've built, right? Because we think it's the best and most beautiful chain that's out there. It's public permissioned. All validators on our chain are financial services companies, right? So that's an important point. Everybody that operates on our chain has to go through a KYC. And the reason why is because we want to build a system that everybody trusts. Because we're dealing in the chain is settling everybody's investments, right? So, and if you don't build a system of trust, then what have you got? You're not going to trust it. You're not going to use it. And we want to ensure that every actor in our ecosystem is known to us and is permissioned through the system. Does that make sense?
Fairly, with the immutable ledger part. I always just equate it to, to me, I simplify it. Like, you guys are offering people a software that will instantaneously fractionalize their assets.
Correct.
And now they can track it and measure it.
Right.
That's why I was asking about the value. Cause like if someone can come along and fractionalize this building and say, hey, it's $1 a share and I want, 100 million shares, and everybody buys it, not knowing that it's only a $20 million building. Well, you might, even though it's immutable records, right, we just have immutable proof you got screwed.
Right.
It doesn't do anything.
Right.
It doesn't protect the investor.
Right.
But the records is, to me, the value, because now at least the records are immutable.
That's correct.
But who sets the value to these things they're tokenizing? Because like LightSpeed, for example, I've never raised money for LightSpeed. I have a plan over the next 4 years that I think will get me this company to exit at $1 billion or more.
Right.
Well, right now, it's not even close to that. So if I were to tokenize LightSpeed, send out to my fans and followers, hey, you guys want to buy a little piece? There might be some massive upside if this goes to plan.
Right. Right.
So who decides the value of LightSpeed to where we can come up with a value of the shares?
You get a third party actually in order to determine and set the value for LightSpeed. Just like, again, and that's based on multiple things: your revenue, your past performance, your future performance, your current revenue today, your profitability as well, your go-to-market strategy, right? And how big of an addressable market actually are you serving?
Yeah. So
and that's the same thing for Polymath as well. Like, so what's the addressable market that we're serving? About $18 trillion worth of, and that's the Boston Consulting Group just produced a report that stated by 2033, the addressable market that we're addressing is about $18 trillion. I think it's actually more, because if you think about all of the real estate around the world, what's that worth? Probably more than 18 trillion. But by 2033, we'll be on track actually to get to $18 trillion worth of tokenized assets on a chain.
That's huge.
That is huge. And what does that mean then for Polymath as far as revenues? Well, our revenue is generated from multiple things, right? There's our layer one, right? And so there's transaction fees that come out of the layer one itself. So from active usage. There's our issuance platform. Our issuance platform is licensed as a white label. You could be a customer of mine, as an example. If you want to tokenize LightSpeed, you can tokenize LightSpeed. And I would license it to you, like Shopify would license a platform to a brick and mortar commerce operation.
It's like a SaaS almost.
Right. It is a SaaS play, right? And then every time actually you tokenize an asset, there's a fee for that, right? While utilizing our white label solution. And then there's the transaction system, or let's call it the exchange, right? Every time somebody is exchanging LightSpeed security tokens, there are fees there, right? So
how big are fees?
They're very tiny, very tiny. Everything runs on our layer one chain, and it's powered by a utility token called PolyX, right? And so that's the underlying actually utility token that powers everything. We take the crypto away from the end user having to purchase it, but we do have a system that, if the end user does want to acquire the utility token in order to power a transaction, they can. But most people actually, again, we want to be able to address the everyday person. We don't want people to feel like they're tripping over themselves in order to use our platform. Right? So, your system, actually, you wouldn't even know that it's powered by crypto, right? You'd know it's running on blockchain, but you wouldn't even, we don't want you to have to feel that, you've got to go out and do a million different things, set up a wallet, go and buy, this utility token, go through KYC process, right? We want to make sure that you got a clean entry point. It's frictionless to set up a platform. We've launched we'll call it a freemium service where, one company, one security token offering, one marketplace. You can set that up in a matter of 30 minutes and you can do your offering, right? So that's something that we launched about a week ago at a crypto event in Toronto, Consensus. And we're pushing that out to market right now. And we've got great adoption. We've got great customers that are coming on board. We're going to have a lot of exciting use cases to talk about.
So for the listeners, what's the upside?
The upside as far as making an investment actually in
like if I give you 100
or
If I give you 100 G bones, American,
right?
So like 10 million Canadian.
The upside is you're coming along. You're coming along for the ride. You're coming along for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I say, man, I listen to this guy on dropping bombs, dude. That sounds, because there's a lot of people that know way more than I do. Yeah. Obviously, they probably.
Well, I can't give investment advice, Brad.
But can you make assumptions? I mean, what are your projections? What does that deck say?
Right.
It doesn't say nothing.
No.
You have to be able to explain what's the upside. No.
Yeah, that's right. Well, past performance actually sometimes predicts actually future performance as well. Past performance is that we've done 18 million a year in revenue. We've always been able to put 30% down as far as EBITDA. So we've always been profitable from day one. We're going to continue to do that. We've been able to grow our revenue year over year, and not insignificantly, but significantly. In baseball terms, we're in like the first inning right now. It's just starting to take off, right? And like I said, the change in administration in the U.S. put the wind in our sails and to put the wind in the overall crypto community as well. But specifically ours, we've always been focused on the tokenization of real world assets. We've been around since 2017, and this has been our primary focus, building applications first on Ethereum and then building our own layer one chain. And it's a chain that competes with Ethereum, but it's purpose built for this industry. It's not a general purpose chain. It's very specific in what it does and what it needs to do. And it's in order to ensure that all the actors that are that are operating within the chain protect the investors, your money that you're going to utilize in there. Now, as far as investors putting money into Polymath, what does that mean? Well, that means actually we've got a lot of growth, right? Because the overall industry has not tokenized $1 trillion yet, right? We're like $500 billion worth of assets have been tokenized globally right now. So less than $1 trillion. And again, it's a high growth market.
And there's 18 trillion potentially.
I think it's more. Think about the real estate.
Well, I'll give you an example. And all I'm trying to do is give the listeners some excitement. Maybe you're not allowed to, I don't know, but because maybe they'll say, hey, you said on the podcast it's going to be worth $1 zillion.
Right.
But that's why I'm trying to tee it up where you're not making any claims. You're saying, hey, if things go to plan, we should be 8 times bigger. So if you put in $100,000, it'd be worth 8 times more.
Yeah.
But I'll use XRP as an example because I went now, I forgot. I'll say 50 grand. Maybe it was 100, but I bought XRP. Why? Well, because if this happened and if that happened and if this happened, well, it'll be worth 2,500 a coin. And it's like, well, shit, it was 63 cents when I bought it. So if it goes to 2,500 a coin and I bought it for 63 cents, I can go, there's the upside. That's why I bought it. Why? For the upside. I want to be a Bitcoin millionaire or a crypto billionaire.
Right.
Now, if it doesn't do anything, I lost 50 G's. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. And I took the gamble.
Right.
Because of the upside. I didn't do it because, I know that the XRP, lineage is going to be used in the Federal Reserve with the Ethereum backbone. And I don't know a lot of people that know that deeply of crypto, but you hear some of the people that know crypto going, dude, XRP will never get that big because they have all these reasons. And then you hear the other side and they go, bullshit, dude. Mm-hmm. If the globe is going digital, which it is, mm-hmm. and I know it will, like you said, it's going that way, dude. Mm-hmm. The whole global financial system will be running on the blockchain. If it's not already, isn't it already? A lot of banks have already went. JP Morgan, yeah.
They're getting there. I would say they're not. If you look at the banking systems, like traditional banking systems,
the SWIFT model,
they're still running on COBOL, right? Systems that they're afraid to take offline, right? So
why? They want to reset, don't they?
I think they do and they don't. It's not broken. They're worried about trying to fix something. So they're building layers and wrappers around it. They're putting APIs, that provide that flexibility. Open banking is an initiative globally around the world. I used to, prior to Polymath, I'd run around the world, putting banking platforms into developing markets and providing digital wallets to people in Kenya and Tanzania. And those markets skipped over, the traditional banking markets. And I think the developing markets are going to skip over having to go through what we did here in the developed markets as far as securities and regulations, right? So they're going to go right to blockchain. But here it's the friction that we have is, well, we'll just call it, actually, there's a lot of people that make money on the way that the system operates today, right? But it's highly inefficient. So going back to your point, as far as, where do we see ourselves in 5 years' time? Well, we're going out with a valuation of $100 million, right? Do I want to be a $100 million business in 5 years? Absolutely not. What's our target? Like anybody else, to get to $1 billion or more. How do you do that? By adding value into what you're doing, getting people to use your system, getting customers to license your platform, and also acquiring other businesses to be part of the journey, right? And so that is of interest to us. Businesses that are in the capital markets industry that can be layered onto our layer one chain and utilize the blockchain are interest to me. So a TradFi software business that's currently servicing the capital markets industry, you think about it, it's like taking if you've got an old car, you still want to drive it, but the motor's inefficient. You love the look of it because it's a work of art, but maybe you want to electrify it, right? And there is a group of people that do that. They take out that 427 Hemi or motor and they're putting in electrified cars. It's very much the same way where we're doing that. We're electrifying this industry. We're digitizing it as well, right? And an asset that's interesting to us is that I'll take a TradFi software business and I'll put it on the blockchain. So now that uses blockchain in order to power its overall business. That's exciting, right? That's because you're transforming things. You're not throwing it out. You're making it better, right? So we made it better by building the blockchain, right? And what we see are these other assets that are highly valuable. So instead of reinventing the wheel, buy the car and put it on the blockchain as well.
How would investors, when they buy, get their money back? Do you plan on cutting a certain profit and distributions, or how do they get it back eventually? Sell their shares? They
can sell their shares. We'll be a publicly traded company. What's interesting with Polymath is that there's almost two ways of investing, right? Because we have our own layer one, we have our own utility token. People can invest actually just via the utility that's there, right? But we're a public markets play. We're taking the overall enterprise public, right? Because we have our layer one, but then there's the additional revenue that's created from the overall enterprise through software licensing or a SaaS play, right? And so there's greater value in the entity of investing in the entity at the top co or the publicly listed company.
Do you guys have an exit strategy?
Well, our exit strategy is going public and creating opportunities for people to invest in a public company.
And I'm asking questions like I'd be thinking if I'm listening to this, why, what makes you so special? Where'd they find you, first of all, and then what makes you the top dude?
Okay. Well, anybody can be a top dude. Maybe I'm the better storyteller. The experience that I've had, I've always been a technology guy. I built businesses in the past. I've had two successful startups that I've exited from. One was in telecom software back in I'd call it maybe this 1.5 of the second wave of the internet. It was in mobile. Then I had another startup called Telepin, and that was a financial services company. That was a digital wallet. And what's interesting there is that we did work with Ripple and the Gates Foundation.
The old Ripple smooth. There
you go. We go back to XRP.
You got any Ripple? You got any Ripple?
I do hold on to some Ripple.
See, yes. Should I keep it? Knowing what you know, do you think hey, that's definitely going to be at least a couple $100?
So in the past, actually, what Ripple was doing with us, at least in the developing market, they were the interledger protocol that interconnected, like Swift, all the individual banking systems and digital wallets, right? There's value there. And there was value that in what we were doing with the Gates Foundation and, with projects in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania.
Yeah, but knowing what you know, is it like not ever going to be adopted to where it's worth $2,500 a coin? Or could it still potentially happen?
Any investment actually can go to zero. And that's, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I can say that about Ripple. Like, I believe in it. I like it. It's an interesting company. I know the value of Ripple, or at least from a technology point of view, and what it serves, right?
What about the market cap limits?
Well, I always look at things as far as its utility, right? It's like, if you buy a can opener, actually, if it doesn't work, you're going to continue to fight with it, or you're going to throw it out and get a new one, right? So does Ripple have utility from a technology point of view? Yeah, it does, right? It's an interledger protocol. It can interconnect things. It makes things more efficiently. Like, it could replace actually
quicker and cheaper, I hear.
Well, it replaces that old SWIFT system. If anybody's ever done any work internationally and needs to get paid from a customer in Africa, pick Ivory Coast. I had a customer in Ivory Coast. It took 6 months in order to get paid from that customer, because they have to they have to produce the contract, present it to the central bank. The central bank needs to buy foreign currency on the open market. And again, with the foreign currency exchange, there's high fluctuations as well. So they're buying US dollars actually in order to then pay me, the money that I need. That takes time. That takes effort, right? And everybody's always watching the FX rates. When's the best time? Well, the best time is just pay me, right? Pay me when I need it. But then once they bought that foreign currency, now it needs to go through actually all the partner banks throughout the world to get to me. And you know how many hands it needs to touch and how many banks that needs to touch? It goes through SWIFT, but it'll go through about 3 or 4 different banks before it gets to my bank.
Isn't that weird? Why can't you just transfer it?
Yeah, exactly.
Should be that ability.
Exactly. Why can't you just tokenize it? There you go, right? Why can't, we think simplistically, right? Like, just send me the money, right?
Is it laws and governments that stop it?
They don't stop it. I'd say they're trying to build a system that wasn't interconnected from the very beginning. People didn't build, and if, I came from telecoms as well. If you remember, I think you're probably similar, in age to me, but if you remember actually Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, early text messaging in the day, you couldn't text message between Sprint and an AT&T mobile phone, right? When that happened, that's when messaging exploded. And this was before, internet on your phones, right? So somebody had to actually bridge that gap. The same thing happened in payments as well. Like, there was the Diners Club card, there was Visa, there was MasterCard. And in Asia, in some restaurants when you go to, they'll have about 10 different point of sale devices. Okay, what card have you got? Okay, I got to figure out which. So it's not interconnected. We need the world to be interconnected in order to, create some form of convenience for the end user. And blockchain solves that problem. And so it's rethinking it. And with tokenization as well, that solves the problem, right? You can tokenize an asset. You can hold it in your wallet. You could take it actually off of chain. You can sell that security token in a decentralized exchange or in a centralized exchange. It's up to you then. Like, you're giving so much flexibility for an investor to be able to A, invest easily, B, then, sell their position if they want to, or sell it back to you.
So, listening as an entrepreneur with a business, give me some ideas how I could use Polymath to raise money, or some slick ass way that most entrepreneurs that are just focused on, building their landscaping business, like, how can they use Polymath as an opportunity to raise money or, grow?
Well, let's talk about a landscaping business. What do you need actually in order to expand a landscaping business?
People and equipment.
Right. So let's talk about the
and
equipment.
deals.
Okay, you can't tokenize people, but you can raise capital in order to, buy equipment, right? So you can actually tokenize the existing assets and equipment that you have today, or tokenize the landscaping company and sell, let's call it security tokens,
the profits
that are tied to that. Now, what everybody wants to know, and you asked the question even about Polymath, well, how do I get, what's the return on that? Where is it going to be in 5 years? That's the same question for that landscaping. Anybody that's going to invest in that landscaping business, okay, if I'm going to give money to, Joe Landscaper, how do I get, a return back from Joe Landscaper? What's the security that I have around that? So past performance kind of dictates actually future performance. But, there could also be, a dry spell. Maybe it doesn't rain for a year. Well, Well, nobody needs a landscape anything because everything's dying, right? So that could affect, that future landscape business. You just never know, right? So every investment actually carries a level of risk, and it's the appetite of that individual investor, actually, what their level of risk is. But it's ultimately when that entrepreneur puts together that investment memo and that security token offering, how do I get my money back, right? Is there any yield, right, for that's being produced? So if you're tokenizing LightSpeed, right? So if I'm an investor, what attracts me to invest in LightSpeed? Is it Brad? Is it his operation? Is it his following? Is it his revenue stream? Do I get paid a monthly yield for, every time that, somebody's on the show here? And then what's your exit strategy then?
Exit. That's my strategy. Can you tokenize futures?
You could tokenize a future revenue stream. Absolutely.
So, because for example, I could say, I'm going to make a course for people that lack confidence, and man, I'm going to sell it to 1 million people. So, what's that value? And I could say to everybody, hey, if you want to, own this course with me, we're going to make millions. If you want to own it with me, you can buy it right now, even though it doesn't exist. Is that legal?
That's legal. And my answer typically is have a lawyer answer that question for you. Is that legal? Ask a lawyer.
Because I'm trying to figure out, I know, but I'm trying to figure out how to use polymath to raise money and share opportunity. But again, it's also risky. Right. What if I don't sell it? What if I get hit and everybody just bought it?
Right.
And now I'm hit by a car and I never finish it.
You have insurance, I hope.
Well, that's the stock market. That's the same thing you're investing in now.
Correct.
The only difference is I don't think I can bet through the stock market on this company doing X, but I don't think I can tangibly get a share of a company that doesn't exist yet. Is that even possible?
Share of a company that doesn't
exist?
In
other words, I got an idea. Okay. I'm going to come out with a program or a product, but I need to raise $20 million to do it. So I go to Polymath, I give you an idea, maybe an LLC, but it hasn't really done anything.
That's every startup actually around the world. Right. So the number one filing in the U.S. is called a Reg D filing. That's typically a startup that does that. Like you just said, I have an idea. So, my past 2 companies in the past, we raised funding from who? Venture capitalists. Right. And when we do that, we have to register with the SEC our particular offering, even for a private offering. And it was just an idea, right? But the idea had a plan behind it. It had an execution framework. There was an entire, what we gave you as our investor deck, very similar actually. What's your idea? Can you draft actually what your plan looks like? Can you give me projections of what your future revenues will look like? Who is the team? Because ultimately, if it's just an idea, you're investing in the team and what they were able to do in the past.
Yeah.
But you're also investing do I trust Brad Lee to do what he said he's going to do? Yeah. What did he do in the past?
So it works like any other investment, it sounds like.
Yep.
So what's the advantage to Polymath? Using Polymath?
The advantage is that, like you said, it's an immutable chain. You said something different, but I'm going to say it's an immutable chain.
So, right? but that's the only advantage?
No, there's liquidity and different form of liquidity. In other words, there's a venue there that investors that let's say that, again, everybody unfortunately is going to, expire at some point in time. So an investor that has invested in your particular private offering, if they expire, well, they need to sell their position, right? And they need to wind up their estate, right? Sometimes actually being able to sell their position means I got to wait until Brad Lee sells his organization before I can truly cash out. And that could be years. Well, now you can create a venue, that it's liquid, right? And that's the opportunity here.
And they can individually go liquidate it themselves without your permission?
They can liquidate it in a marketplace that you provide for them, or a broker dealer will provide, or it will be in an ATS, like a private exchange.
How did you learn all this, man? This is complicated shit, is it? Do I sound like a straight up idiot?
No, you you're well versed in this space. It feels like to me you're asking all the right questions, and I think you host this, right? So you're a quick learner, right? At least from what I can tell, you understand what questions to ask. How did I learn all this stuff? Well, geez, like I came from payments. I didn't know anything about capital markets 4 years ago, but I had to learn it. I had to ask all the stupid questions, and being the guy from the outside, I could ask the stupid questions, right? And I never presented myself as the expert. But what I'm trying to do is apply the knowledge and the learning that I had from other businesses and other industries here as well. Like, just think about looking at it differently. And I think that's the advantage maybe that I have, is that I can ask those stupid questions, and I can be inquisitive to think, well, geez, the way that it operates, well, it's dumb. It should be operating differently, right? So when I did tell a PIN, I knew nothing about payments. But guess what? I was an expert after 14 years. I knew everything about payments. When I started in telecom software, I didn't know like the protocols, but I became a protocol expert. I knew SS7 and I knew SIGTRAN. I knew actually all these like gobbledygook things. I sounded like a modem actually like 20 years ago when I spoke, because I was speaking actually as an engineer on a protocol level. At times I still, speak as that engineer on a protocol level when I'm dropping like blockchain bombs, or other lingo that's tied specifically to the capital markets industry.
So bottom line, layman terms, why would someone want to invest in Polymath?
It's an investment opportunity. We think for high growth. This is going to be a high growth business. It's going to be a fast and transformative industry. We think what we're doing here, well, A, I believe in what we're doing. B, the team believes in what we're doing. We've got, a strong team behind us. We've got a lot of people that have believed in the project that we've been building since 2018. So we got a following actually of the people that hold the utility token. And I think we're going to have another fast following and a different crowd of individuals that are going to invest, in a public market offering. And we're transforming this industry. So why did anybody invest in Shopify when they first went public? Geez, that company's actually like building a system to sell snowboards online. Well, that's dumb.
And right? I wonder if right when it went public or right before, because you guys aren't public yet, you're going.
We're going.
So this is the time to get in if you're going to want that big upswing is my point. So if you went back and said, man, if I'd have invested in Microsoft here, I'd be a billionaire. And then there's some that's like, nah, it's still too late for that. Meaning even if it crushed and continues to crush, you're going to get 3 times your investment. But in the beginning, sometimes, dude, you can what's the story of the guy who sold his Apple shares? He's a co-founder. He lives out here in Pahrump, and he didn't buy the bullshit. And he said, I'm not doing it. I want my money back or something. Right. And they bought him out for let's say $100,000. Right. The story's even worse sounding, but he sold it for $100,000, and then, see what happens. What was his shares worth? It's in the billions.
It's in the billions. Yeah.
But it was only, $100,000 at the time. That's what
because he looked at it as a financial product, right? He didn't look at, what the company was doing, right? I got my 50% return or my 25% return and I'm out.
Did you hear what happened after that? He was being interviewed as the guy who, you sold your shares. And the reporter that was running the story saw that he had the original Apple agreements signed by Steve Jobs and, whoever else and blah, 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 blah. And he said, you want to sell those? And the guy said yeah, and I'm not a sucker anymore. So I want X amount of dollars for it. So the guy paid him and then sold it for millions. He got whacked again. He had the document. He had something worth way more than he anticipated.
Well, we talked about Bitcoin on this. We talked about XRP as well. And it's the same, narrative there. How many people bought Bitcoin and just thought, oh, hey, look, I got a 20% return. I'm out. Right. And then it just kept going out. Right. And because
but they probably bought back in too.
Well, they could have.
But there was a story behind Bitcoin. I was told from $7, it's going to be freaking $1,000 someday. Yeah, I didn't believe it. And that's why I lost out. If I'd have believed the dude, probably would have bought $10,000 worth at $7 each. Now, you never know. I might have sold it when it was $20 each and still didn't win. But my point is, there was an upside there, like a clear upside. That's why I bought XRP, because of the global financial services, which supposedly, again, I don't know anything, but supposedly XRP is the only one that can actually plug into all of them. It's the cheapest, fastest, and it's the one that they're going to use. And matter of fact, they were the ones that the government was trying to sue and get out of business, which made me even like them better. Why? Because if the government's against you, you're probably coming out with something for the people.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'll gamble this time. And it's gone up. What is it right now?
I don't know.
You know?
No.
Let me share with the world what it is. And by the way, I bought it at 63 cents. 63 cents. It is. Ooh, went down from yesterday. It is, let's see here. It is 228. See?
You're doing well.
But that's only 4 times.
Right.
I want it to be 400 times.
Right.
Now I'm in the millions.
Right.
4 times, I made a little money, but I want the big whip. So I'll look at your investment deck. Maybe I'll throw you $100,000. But what I wanted to hear was, you put in $100,000 now and things go to plan. That'll be worth, $9.2 million in 6 years.
Right.
Well, I want to bet on that, but you can't, according to your plans, if I put in 100 G's right now today, just according to your regular old projections, if those happen, what would that 100 G's be worth in 6 years?
I think actually, and I got to be careful with what I say here, but any entrepreneur that builds something is building it for value, right? And like a venture capitalist, when they put $1 in, they're expecting a 10x back, right? What are our expectations?
10x.
Could be.
So if I put in 100, then obviously it'll be worth $1 million in 6-7 years if everything goes well. Potentially,
we'd like to accelerate our growth faster than 10 years. We'd like to actually take, again, like if the industry plays out how we think it's going to, like it's been since 2017. What have we been doing? We've been building technology and we've been educating the market. Right, that's what we've been doing.
And you're a SaaS model, which means your exit multiple's good.
Yeah, that's right. And so,
but look at the team who's leading it. No, just joking.
Some guy.
Is there any way I can see? Like right now, I'm always about breast spray. I did a speech one time in front of like 15,000 people, and they had all these people like you up there in suits talking about intelligent shit. And I walk up and I'm like, first of all, everybody wants to win in life and they can't even brush their fucking teeth. So like, why don't you start brushing your teeth, people? There was people asking me, hey, can you invest in that? I'm like, God, I can't listen to them. They didn't brush their teeth or something. And so I'm famous for like, carrying this around because it's the best investment ever.
Right.
Have you ever talked to someone with like rancid breath?
Yeah.
I've talked to people with rancid breath and I'm not listening. So like this is causing them to lose opportunity because their breath stinks. It's crazy. So I'm known for this. I'm telling people, just go buy this. Like a girl walks up.
Brad,
somebody walks over and talks
to you. Are you trying to tell me something?
No.
Do I need some breath spray?
No, you're too far away. but again, it's very important how you come across in your first impressions.
Yeah.
So, I want to start my own breath spray because, I have like 5 million followers and I can sell some breath spray.
Yeah.
And it aligns with my brand and my whole message. Like, dude, make sure you have killer breath. Well, what I want to do is I want to start a breath spray company, but I want to infuse it with nootropics, limitless pill type shit, brain accelerators, health benefits. So
sounds like you should be licensing a version of our platform to raise money in order to start
that's what I'm talking
activity.
About. So I want to start.
You're our perfect customer.
I want to start a breath company called Laced, and you go to a website, and obviously you can pick, the flavor. Mm-hmm. But what do you want it laced with? Yeah. People can say, I want it laced with, B12. I want it laced with, I forget the brain booster, just nootropics. Mm-hmm. And then when you hit enter, boom, we send you your laced breath spray. And now you walk around with, not only do you have fresh breath, but now you're energized or, even if whatever's legal, obviously,
right.
Maybe you want CBD or maybe you want whatever, but it's laced,
right?
Laced breath spray.
Yeah.
Make kick-ass containers, not cheap ones, but like high-end kick-ass containers that are refillable.
Yeah.
I think that'd go huge.
Yeah.
So what do I do? Do I go to Polymath and write them a check and tokenize it and then put it out for sale? What's my steps?
Go to Polymath, click on the products link, choose Start Me Up, right? And set up your platform.
And then you say it's free if it's just one?
Just one.
Now, again, this doesn't really exist.
Right.
It's just an idea. Can I go set it up as an idea and raise money as an idea, or do I need all these regulatory bodies approving it?
You still need a lawyer to help paper what you're doing, because this is a legal contract. It is a security. So
the SEC is going to get involved if I'm here in America anyway.
Well, it's a simple filing that you're doing actually on the SEC site, right? So your lawyer will walk you through the process.
But isn't it easier just to crowdfund?
That is one actually activity, and we do have a partner, and we haven't announced that yet, but we will be announcing a partnership with another tokenization play that run a crowdfunding platform. So there'll be press releases coming out in the next 4 to 6 weeks. There'll be press releases next week about partnerships customers are announcing, because the excitement is starting to form, right? Yep. We've got the strategic partners that we need in order to scale this business from the from the blockchain itself, then to the issuance platform. Because if I think about our revenue, I think about it as a pyramid, right? And it starts at that foundation, right? The foundation of the layer one chain. There's revenue that's derived from that, right? The issuance platform, put $2 signs against that, right? Because as you start using that, actually it generates revenue from a SaaS play, but it's also generating revenue on the foundation. Now you got the trading venue, right? That's put $3 signs against that. So as you start moving up let's call it the SaaS stack, you're utilizing more features, more functionality, which is, again, good for a company like ours because we're driving more revenue out of that, but you're driving more value out of that. And that's the important part, is that I don't want to actually always think about, I do think about, the revenue for the business that we're growing, but I want to make sure that I'm solving the problem and the need actually that someone like you needs as well. So my ear is always to the market. I'm listening to my users, the entrepreneurs that are out there, because I was in the same seat as you, right? Like 20 years ago with my first startup, I have to go raise money. Who do I need to talk to? I need to get on the phone. I need to jump on a plane. I need to go hang out in California on Sand Hill Road. I need to, bang on doors, set up meetings. And then, hey, look at me, look at our team, look at our product. Can you write me a check? Yeah. And we were able to get checks, right? And as a result of that, a lot of work. Now, when you put everything on the blockchain and you create a system like ours, it's a little bit easier now. You're maybe not having to jump on a plane. Maybe you're not actually having to go to, Sand Hill Road. Maybe you don't have to go talk to, the traditional players. These are the non-traditional. And there's other terms of use that we, that are stated, we're democratizing investing. We're creating actually opportunities for the everyday person to be able to invest and discover your particular, breath spray, enterprise.
Laced.
Let's put a plug in that. Everybody use Laced.
Folks, if you guys want to invest at your own discretion, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that. You hear about that one influencer that was saying, hey, you should go get this Bitcoin. And then he got busted because they did.
Yes.
So, hey, do what you want to do, folks. I'm just exposing you to opportunities. But polymath.network, Vince Kadar, folks. And you can follow on Twitter at Polymath Network. You can look him up on LinkedIn, do your own research, make your own decisions. If you want to invest in Laced, man, just shoot me a DM and some money, and I'll get you some fractionalized tokenization someday.
So on on Twitter, I'm Tokenized Vince. And on
Tokenized Vince.
Tokenized Vince on Twitter, Tokenized Vince on Instagram. On LinkedIn, it's just my name. You can follow me there. But yeah, we're documenting our journey to go public. We're pushing out information. Yesterday, happened to meet the mayor of New York, and I put a sticker right on him that said, tokenize this, right? And so that is, the entertainment value of what we're doing, but we really want people to, we want to build a following of what we're doing through social media, but also through just understand the journey of going public. It's not easy. This is my first going public. I've typically built businesses like you, private as well. Eventually you sell it to, a public owner or maybe another private business. Going public, It's no feat of its own. I'd say, I've got a strong team. I've got a strong CFO. She happens to be sitting here on the couch. Without a team, it's not just me that you're investing in. It's not the technology. It's everything that we bring together. And then it's the ecosystem of partners that we bring together as well.
Yeah. You guys go look at the deck. Cause I try to play devil's advocate for you, but obviously they've got the deck, they've got the plans. Go look for yourself. Could be the opportunity you've been waiting on. I like the opportunity. I'm going to go take a deeper look. And I may just become a customer for either, one of my businesses or a future business. Cause I think everybody needs good breath, right?
They do, Brad, including me.
I appreciate you coming in, Vince.
Thank you.
And folks, as always, until next time, keep it real.